In this video, I shall discuss about three forms of a system of linear simultaneous equations: the triangular form, the echelon form, and the row canonical form, which will be extremely important for solving a system of linear simultaneous equations. Let us consider the system of linear equations given by this. You can see I have taken an arbitrary system of m linear equations in n unknowns. Now the value of m may be equal to n, may not be equal to n. Now this system can alternatively be represented using matrix notations as this, where this m by n coefficient matrix is denoted popularly by capital A, this n by 1 column matrix of unknowns is denoted by x, and this m by 1 column matrix of the right hand side constants is denoted by this small b, and the system popularly is denoted as ax is equal to b in matrix notation. It is obvious that applying elementary operations on the system of equations in the left side is equivalent to applying elementary row operations on the augmented matrix given by the m by n plus 1 ordered augmented matrix, which is obtained by augmenting the column B to the coefficient matrix A. This matrix is denoted by this symbol A suffix B, or this A augmented to B, or this M. And this is known as the augmented matrix. You can understand if you look carefully to the system of linear simultaneous equation that is written above and this augmented matrix, you can understand they are actually similar. If we look at this augmented matrix row wise. And as I have said, applying elementary operations on the system of equations is equivalent to applying elementary row operations on this augmented matrix, which is very obvious. And by elementary row operations, we mean for a matrix A with rows R1, R2, etc., Rm, the following operations are called elementary row operations. The first one is row interchange. That means we can interchange the ith row and the jth row. Symbolically, it is represented in this way. The second one is row scaling. That is, we can replace the ith row by some non-zero constant multiple of the same row. Symbolically, it is represented as k into Ri, where k is not equals to 0, replaces Ri. And the third elementary row operation is known as row addition. That is, we can replace the jth row by that jth row plus some non-zero constant multiple of some any other row, say the ith row. Symbolically, it is represented as Rj plus k into Ri replaces Rj. Sorry, here it should be k prime because I have used k prime in this place. So these three operations are known as elementary row operations. Now one can easily understand that these operations can be restated for system of equations just by replacing the ith row and jth row by ith equation and jth equation respectively. And it can further be easily verified that the solution of a system of linear equations and the solution of another system of linear equations obtained by applying elementary operations on the former system are same. We say that the system obtained by applying elementary row operations is equivalent to the former one. In terms of matrices, we say that a matrix A is said to be row equivalent to a matrix B, denoted as A row equivalent to B, if B can be obtained from A by a sequence of elementary row operations. As I have said earlier, if A and B are row equivalent, then it can be very easily shown that the system of linear simultaneous equations represented by the matrix A and the system of linear simultaneous equations represented by the matrix B will have the same solution. Now, let us consider the following system of linear equations given by this. You can understand that solving this system of linear equations is pretty simple. We will find out x4 from the last equation. From the last equation, we get x4 is equal to 4. We will simply plug in the value of this x4 in the third equation, and we will find out x3, and we can very easily find out that x3 will be equal to, for this equation, quickly calculate and tell me what will be x3. X3 will be equal to 1. Now we will plug in the values of x4 and x3 in the second equation, and we will find out x2. What will be x2? Quickly calculate and tell me. X2 will be equal to here. Yes, minus 2. So x2 is minus 2. Now we will plug in x4, x3 and x2 in the first equation, and we will find out x1. Can you tell me what will be x1? Quickly calculate and find out x1. x4 is 4, x3 is 1, x2 minus 2, so x1 is equal to 3. This method of substituting values from back is known as back substitution. And this form of system of linear equations is known as upper triangular form. So upper triangular form can be defined as the form of system of linear equations where the ith unknown is the leading unknown, that is the first unknown with non-zero coefficient in the ith equation. In this system of linear simultaneous equations, for example, you can see that the first unknown, that is x1, is the leading unknown in the first equation. The second unknown, that is x2, is the leading unknown in the second equation, because this equation you can alternatively write as 0 into x1 plus this. The third equation you can alternatively write as 0 into x1 plus 0 into x2 plus this, making x3 the leading unknown in the third equation. And the fourth equation in a similar way you can write as 0 into x1 plus 0 into x2 plus 0 into x3 plus this, making x4 as the leading unknown in the fourth equation. So this is a system of linear equations in upper triangular form. Such an upper triangular system always has a unique solution which may be obtained by back substitution. Now, if you represent this system of linear equations in augmented matrix form, then this will be your augmented matrix, where the partition containing the coefficient matrix is upper triangular, because we know an upper triangular matrix means a square matrix whose all the entries below the leading diagonal are 0. Here you can see this is my leading diagonal, and all the entries below this leading diagonal are 0. So this coefficient matrix is an upper triangular matrix. So you can understand, if a system of linear equations is in upper triangular form, then in the augmented matrix, the partition containing the coefficient matrix will be an upper triangular matrix. And we can solve such systems very easily by the method of back substitution. Analogously, one can define lower triangular form also, which may be solved very easily by top substitution. Now, this upper triangular form is applicable for system of equations where the number of equations and number of variables are same. That is, the coefficient matrix is a square matrix. Now, this will not happen always. There may be systems in physical circumstance. We might face a system of linear simultaneous equations where your number of equations and number of variables or unknowns may be different. Now we will define the echelon form of a system of linear simultaneous equation and subsequently of a matrix, which is applicable for both square systems as well as rectangular systems. This system of linear simultaneous equations that you can see on screen is in echelon form. Now carefully observe and try to understand what are the features that you can find in this form of system of linear simultaneous equations. First of all, no equation is degenerate. Let me remind you, by a degenerate linear equation, we mean an equation of this form. That means the coefficients of all the unknowns will be zero. Now you can understand that the solution of this kind of a degenerate linear equation will depend on the value of this right hand side constant b. If this b is equal to 0, then the number of solutions of this degenerate linear equation will be infinite, because then for any value of x1, x2, etc., xn, this equation will be satisfied. You will be getting 0 in the left side as well as 0 in the right side. But if this b is not equal to 0, then your system will have no solution, because in the left side then you will get 0, in the right side then you will get a non-zero number, which is infeasible. So for a degenerate linear equation, if the right hand side constant is equals to 0, then you have infinite number of solutions. Otherwise, you have no solution at all. Now, for a system of linear simultaneous equations, if it has to be in echelon form, then none of the equations should be degenerate. That is requirement number 1. The second feature that you can see here is the leading unknown in each equation, other than the first, is to the right of the leading unknown in the preceding equation. As you can see here, in the first equation, x1 is your leading unknown. In the second equation, x3 is your leading unknown. In the third equation, x4 is your leading unknown. Now, if we arrange or rewrite the equations as, say, 0 into x1 plus 0 into x2 plus this, the third equation has 0 into x1 plus 0 into x2 plus 0 into x3 plus this, you can see as you proceed row to row downwards, the leading unknowns are shifted in the right side. That is what is mentioned as per the second feature of a system of linear equations in echelon form. So this is how we define a system of linear equations in echelon form. The leading unknowns in this system, that is x1, x3, x4, are called pivot variables, and the other unknowns here, they are x2 and x5, are called free variables. So in an echelon form, the leading unknowns are known as pivot variables and the other unknowns are called free variables. Now remember these two terms. We will be frequently using these terms in our future course of discussion. Now, if we represent this system as an augmented matrix, then the system will look like this, where the partition containing the coefficient matrix is an echelon matrix. Now, echelon matrix can be defined in a similar way as a matrix where all zero rows, if any, are at the bottom of the matrix, and each leading non-zero entry in a row is to the right of the leading non-zero entry in the preceding row. You can see here, as per this definition of echelon matrix, this partitioned matrix, that means the coefficient matrix in the augmented matrix, is an echelon matrix. So if you have a system of linear simultaneous equation is in echelon form, then the coefficient matrix will be an echelon matrix. For a non-singular square matrix, upper triangular form and echelon form are equivalent. Now, let us see how we can solve this system of linear simultaneous equation in echelon form. The process of solution is pretty simple. Assign arbitrary values known as parameters to the free variables. Here the free variables are x2 and x5. So let x2 is equal to a and x5 is equal to b. So if I assign these arbitrary values or called parameters where a and b are real valued parameters, then you can understand that from the third equation, if I plug in the value of a and b in the third equation, then in the third equation, x2 is having a zero coefficient, so I don't have to bother about that. So if I plug in x5 is equal to b, we will get x4 is equal to 2 plus 3b. Now, if you plug in the value of x4 and x5 in the second equation, I can find out the value of x3, and the value of x3 will be 1 minus 8b. And in a similar way, if we plug in the values of x2, x3, x4, and x5 in the first equation, we can find out that x1 will be equal to 4 minus 3a minus 9b. Therefore, the general solution is given by x1 is equal to 4 minus 3a minus 9b, x2 is equal to a, x3 is equal to 1 minus 8b, x4 is equal to 2 plus 3b, and x5 is equal to b. What are a and b? Where a and b are real valued parameters, so I can write a and b are any real numbers. So this is known as the general solution. Now for a particular value of a and b, we can find out a particular solution. For example, if a and b are both 0, x1 equal to 4, x2 equal to 0, x3 equal to 1, x4 equal to 2, and x5 is equal to 0. You can see that, you can check that these values will satisfy all the equations in your system as well. Now, at this point, I would like to tell you, just think about this phenomena from the Coulomb perspective. In my previous lecture, I discussed about two perspectives, the row perspective and column perspective of looking into a system of linear simultaneous equations. Now, when you got this particular solution, I want you to think or analyze this equation from the perspective of Coulomb vectors or from the Coulomb perspective. You can let me know your findings in the comment section below. So, how we can solve a system of linear equations in echelon form? It's pretty simple. You assign arbitrary values known as parameters to the free variables, and simply find out the values of the pivot variables. So you can understand that a system of linear simultaneous equations of this form will have infinite number of solutions. For infinite number of possible values of the parameters, you can get infinite number of solutions, and for a particular value assigned to the parameters, you can get a particular solution. As we have found out a particular solution here for a equal to 0, b equal to 0, you can plug in any other value for a, b, and you can get any other particular solution. Now, if we impose two more restrictions on the echelon form, we get another form that makes solving a system of linear equations more convenient, and the form is known as row canonical form. A matrix is said to be in row canonical form if it is an echelon matrix and satisfies the following additional two properties. The first one, each pivot is equal to 1. Here, pivot of a matrix means the first non-zero entries of a row. Now, why I'm giving emphasis on this words row? Because so far we have discussed only about elementary row operations, and since we are looking into matrices from the row perspective, or we are trying to analyze system of linear simultaneous equations, we are considering row operations only. But let me tell you, similarly or analogously, people can define column operations also, elementary column operations also. That's a different context. I will come to that later. But right now we are confined in rows only. That's why I'm defining everything from the perspective of row. And hence I have written there row within bracket, then pivots. So row pivots of a matrix are the first non-zero entries of a row. And here wherever I use the word pivot, I will be meaning the row pivot. Similarly, you can understand the first non-zero entry of a column can be referred to as column pivot. But here by pivot, I am meaning row pivots. So a matrix is said to be in row canonical form if it is in echelon form. That means the two requirements for echelon form needs to be satisfied. Along with that, there are two additional requirements. Number one, each pivot should be equal to 1, and number two, each pivot should be the only non-zero entry in that column. Now, the major difference between an echelon matrix and a matrix in row canonical form is that in an echelon matrix, there must be zeros below the pivots. But in a matrix in row canonical form, each pivot must be equal to 1, and there must also be zeros above the pivots as well. So in echelon form, you don't require that all the elements apart from the pivot in the respective column should be 0. In echelon form, you only need that all the elements in the column below the pivot should be 0. But here you require all the elements where the pivot is lying, all the elements of that column apart from that pivot should be 0. So that is the major difference. And here you can understand that I need the pivot should be equal to 1. For examples of row canonical matrix, let us consider the three matrices given one by one. Let us consider the first matrix. Here, the pivots are this element for the first row, this element for the second row, and this element for the third row. And the fourth row is a 0 row. Fine. So as per the definition of echelon matrix, you can understand it satisfies both the requirements to be in echelon form. That means the 0 row is at the bottom, and if you consider in each of the rows, the pivot element is lying in the right side of the pivot of the preceding row, excepting the first row. So we can say this is comfortably in echelon form. Now the question is it in row canonical form? In row canonical form, we have two requirements as you can see above. Each pivot is equal to 1. So in the first requirement, it fails. So this is only an echelon matrix, not a row canonical matrix, or not a matrix in row canonical form. Now, the second one. Again, if I consider the pivot elements for the second one, the pivots are this and this. Now you can see this one also satisfies both the requirements to be in echelon form. The 0 row is at the bottom, and if you move row to row downwards, the pivots are lying in the right side. The same language as you can also say that pivot of any row is lying in the right side of the pivot of the preceding row. So this is a matrix in echelon form. But the question is it in row canonical form? The first condition for row canonical form is it has to be echelon plus the first one. Each pivot is equal to 1. Here each pivot are 1. So satisfied. Now the second, each pivot is the only non-zero entry in its column. So if we consider the first column, yes, the pivot is the only non-zero entry in that column. Okay, Let us consider the second pivot lying in the third column. Now, if we consider this column, there is a problem. We can see there is 0 below this pivot, but there is a non-zero element above the pivot. So it is not satisfying the second requirement of row canonical form. So this is also a matrix in echelon form or an echelon matrix only. We cannot say that this is a matrix in row canonical form. Okay, let us investigate the third one. Let us mark the pivots first. This is the pivot for the first row, pivot for the second row, pivot for the third row. Pretty simple. So these are the three pivots. Now again, you can check it satisfies all the requirements to be an echelon matrix. So it is an echelon matrix. Each pivot is equal to 1. And if you look at the columns containing the pivots, you can understand that the pivots are the only non-zero elements in that column. So this matrix is an echelon matrix, and not only that, this satisfies the two additional requirements also. So this third matrix is in row canonical form. Now, if we consider this matrix as an augmented matrix of some system of linear equations, or if I try to find out the inherent system of linear simultaneous equations, treating this as an augmented matrix of that. So can you tell me how that system will look like? So for the third example, if this is the augmented matrix, then the system or the inherent system of linear equations will look like this. Now, solving this equation is pretty simple. Here you can understand that my pivot variables are the corresponding variables of the pivot elements of the matrix. That means x2, x4, and x5. These three are my pivots. So the free variables are x1, x3, x1 and x3. So I can assume that x1 and x3 are taking two arbitrary values, say a and b, where a and b are any real numbers, so the parameters. Now we can find out from the last equation that x5 is equal to 2. It's already there. There is no need to find out anything. You can see here it is. From the second equation, it is again there that x4 is equal to -3. Now, from the first equation, if I find out, then if I plug in x3 is equal to b, then I can find out that x2 will be equal to 4 minus 3b. So my solutions are x1 is equal to a, x3 is equal to b, x2 is equal to 4 minus 3b, x4 is equal to -3, and x5 is equal to 2. So I got a solution more conveniently than we have got in echelon form. Means our calculation for obtaining the solutions, or this back substitution kind of thing, that got reduced if I consider a system in row canonical form. Now, what you can do is you can pause this video for a while and you can note down these matrices. Your task will be to identify the pivots and to determine which of these four are echelon and which are row canonical, and if there is any one which is neither echelon nor row canonical. That will be your task. So do this and let me know your answer in the comment section below. I'll be waiting for your answers. So if the system of equations is in the upper triangular form or in echelon form or in row canonical form, we can solve them very easily. But always our system will not be in these forms. Hence our target will be to reduce the system to another equivalent system in one of these forms, preferably in row canonical form, by applying elementary operations so that we can very easily find out the solution. In matrix notation, if we restate the same thing, then our objective will be to apply elementary row operations in the augmented matrix in such a way that it gets reduced to an upper triangular a matrix or an echelon matrix, or preferably a row canonical matrix. Now, it will be even more convenient if we have a standard algorithm defining in which order or in which sequence the elementary row operations are to be performed. Indeed, we have such a beautiful algorithm that will make our life so easy while solving linear equations. That algorithm is known as Gaussian elimination algorithm. I shall discuss that in the next video. See you in the next video. Take care.